Now, in the past few months, many companies have announced price hikes on products and services, and that's inflation. And on that point, things aren't getting any better. Prices are still rising. And just think, look at all the Fed rate hikes that we've had. It's done absolutely nothing to bring inflation down. Prices are still rising. Now, they're not rising as fast as they were, but they're still rising. And that's going to mean big trouble ahead, especially if that oil and gasoline commodity market start marching up. Now, per CNBC, the average mortgage rate in America is now over 8%. And I got bad news. That number's going to be moving up. And I've said it before, we're going to have mortgage rates over 10%. And not only that, these mortgage rates and interest rates, they're going to stay elevated for quite some time. I don't see the Fed cutting rates until maybe 2025. And if you're holding a high amount of debt, or if you're a company that has a high amount of debt, I don't see how you make it through this storm. Now, this is pretty worrisome. Americans age 65 and up accounted for 22% of the spending in the economy in the last year. And this is the highest percent since records began in 1972. And that's upside down because we need the youth, we need the young people in this country to be spending more than the elderly. And if the elderly are spending more money than the young, what does that tell you? And the ramifications of this won't be good because if the older age group in this country is spending more money than they were before, once they pass, there's a likelihood they have no money to hand down to their children, to their grandchildren. And that generational wealth that used to be passed on is drying up. Now, more retirees in this country are unretiring, and it's happening at a faster rate than ever before. And that's because of medical costs, because of the cost of living. This isn't the 80s or the early 90s where you could retire, kick your feet up, and go sailing. More and more people are having to work in their 70s and 80s. You can go in any fast food joint in America or any big box retailer and find people over the retirement age still working. And that's not because they want to, that's because they need to. So we're in different times, folks. We're going into a new era. Now, foreclosures and default notices are rising, and they're up 26% in the third quarter of this year. So we're probably at the beginning stages of turmoil in the housing market. Now, does that mean prices drop? Well, I'm not sure, because now you have Wall Street, you have some of the Wall Street firms buying up these homes. So they're going to set a floor on prices. And I'm not sure home prices drop that much, but nevertheless, this is an ominous sign. What this means is there's a likelihood that more people are hitting the streets. And with these foreclosures rising, what does that mean for the banks? And the banks are already on shaky ground. Over the past few weeks, bank stocks have dripped down, and many of them are near 52-week lows. And I'm not so sure that this regional banking crisis is over. So I'm thinking there's going to be hard times ahead. Now, the S&P 7 now reflects almost 30% of the entire index by market cap. And that's not good, because if you have only 7 stocks basically holding up the entire S&P 500, what happens if 2 of those 7 companies reports bad earnings and has a serious drop in their stock price? You're going to see this market tumble. And when I see an index that's unbalanced like this, I think of a flash crash. And right now, with so many geopolitical events happening across the globe, anything's possible. Now, those 7 stocks in the S&P 7 are up 50% year to date. Meanwhile, the remaining 493 stocks are only up 3% for the year. So this index is unbalanced. And now, over the past year, the 400 richest Americans increased their net worth by $500 billion. Meanwhile, the guys in the middle class and the guys at the bottom, they've actually seen their net worth go down. And I'm not so sure how long that unbalance can last. And what would it take to turn that around? And can it even be turned around? All I know is it's unsustainable. And when only a few have all the money, good things don't come from that. Now, in China, one of the biggest property developers, Evergrande, filed for bankruptcy. And just recently, there's been a bank run on one of the banks that was connected to that property developer. And I just bring that to light because the same thing can happen here. And we saw what happened with Washington Mutual and a few small other banks 15 years ago. So right now, I wouldn't put anything off the table. What can happen in China or the rest of the world can happen right here in the U.S. Now, if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.